You ever walk out of an argument thinking, wait, why didn't I say that? Or worse, have you ever nodded along with someone who sounded super confident, only to realize later that what they said made zero actual sense? Yeah, been there. It's that moment you feel a pit in your stomach, like you should have known better. Maybe in class, maybe at work, or maybe in the middle of a conversation with someone you really care about, where you said something that just didn't land right. There's a kind of mental fog we all run into, where our emotions, biases, or just the rush of daily life clouds our ability to see clearly. And that's where critical thinking steps in, not as some abstract academic concept, but as a powerful flashlight in the dark corners of your everyday life. The truth is, most of us aren't taught how to think. We're taught what to think. School gives us answers, social media gives us opinions, and culture gives us pressure. But how often do we stop and ask, why do I believe this? What's actually true? What's missing here? If you've ever felt overwhelmed by information, misunderstood in a conversation, or just plain stuck in your own head, you're not broken, you're human. But you can train your brain to slow down, think deeper, and choose better. And once you do, everything changes. Relationships become more meaningful, decisions become sharper, and that annoying voice of doubt in your head, it starts to calm down. In this audiobook, we're going to break down how to sharpen your critical thinking skills in a way that's not just useful, but honestly, life-changing. And we're not doing it through lectures or jargon. We're going to walk through real situations, real emotions, and real mindset shifts that actually stick. This is your blueprint for seeing through the noise, breaking past the mental autopilot, and stepping into conversations and life itself with clarity, confidence, and calm. Ready? Let's get into Chapter 1. Chapter 1. The mental filter you never knew you had. Okay, picture this. You text a friend something you think is funny, but they don't respond. Hours go by. Nothing. Now tell me, what's the first story your brain starts telling you? Maybe it's, they're mad at me. Maybe it's, I knew I shouldn't have said that. Or maybe, they must think I'm annoying. But here's the kicker. You don't know any of that. Your brain is just filling in the blanks. It's like having a narrator in your head who thinks they're doing you a favor by making sense of the world. But half the time, they're making stuff up. That narrator is built on your experiences, fears, values, and a whole bunch of assumptions. It's your mental filter. And the first step in mastering critical thinking is realizing that you have one. Most people walk through life believing everything their mind serves up. If it feels true, it must be true, right? But here's where the truth hurts a little. Your feelings can lie to you, and they do it often. This isn't about suppressing emotion or turning into some robot who analyzes every text message like it's a code to be cracked. It's about slowing down enough to ask, what else could be true here? Maybe your friend was just busy. Maybe they laughed out loud and forgot to reply. Maybe they're going through something and don't have the emotional energy to text anyone back. The point is, without facts, every assumption is just a guess wearing confidence as a costume. This becomes even more critical when we start judging ourselves. Let's say you bomb a presentation at work or school. That inner voice might shout, "You're not cut out for this." But a critical thinker pauses and says, "Okay, what actually happened? What part went wrong? What can I learn?" The difference is subtle, but life-changing. One voice traps you, the other teaches you. Let me give you a quick real-life example. Back in college, I had a classmate named Josh, smart dude, but he had this intense fear of public speaking, like hands shaking, voice cracking, panic-level fear. He gave this one presentation that totally tanked. Slides didn't work. He lost his train of thought. It was brutal. Afterward, he told me, "I guess I'm just not good at this." But over time, with a few honest reflections and some brutal self-awareness, he realized it wasn't that he lacked skill, it's that he never practiced. He assumed he was bad because of how it felt, but when he challenged that feeling and looked at the facts, he found the real issue. Fast forward a year, dude became one of the top speakers in our business class. That's what critical thinking looks like in real life. It's not about being right, it's about being curious. It's about realizing that your first thought is not always your best thought. And it's learning to spot the sneaky little traps your brain sets when it's scared, stressed, or just on autopilot. So how do you begin to change that filter? You start by noticing it. Pay attention to your reactions, not just what you think, but but how you think. When someone disagrees with you, do you get defensive right away? That's a sign. When something uncomfortable happens, do you jump to conclusions or do you ask questions? That's a skill. And I get it, this stuff isn't easy. We live in a world that rewards speed. Scroll fast, react fast, post fast. But wisdom doesn't live in speed. It lives in pause. It lives in the quiet second between what happened and how you choose to respond. So here's your challenge for today. Next time something irritates you, scares you, or confuses you, pause. Take a breath and just ask, what else might be true here? That one question, it could change the way you think forever. In the next chapter, we're going to explore why we fall for bad arguments and how cognitive biases sneak into our everyday decisions without us even noticing. Trust me, once you see how your brain plays tricks on you, you'll never look at a headline or an argument on Reddit the same way again. Chapter 2, The Invisible Puppeteers in Your Brain. You ever notice how sometimes the loudest person in the room seems the most convincing, even if they're completely wrong? Yeah, that's not a coincidence. Welcome to the world of cognitive bias. These are the invisible strings tugging at your thoughts, pushing you towards snap decisions, lazy logic, or emotional overreactions. And the wild part, you don't even realize it's happening. Let's start with one of the sneakiest biases, confirmation bias. Imagine you're convinced that your boss secretly doesn't like you. So now, every time they walk past your desk without saying hi, it's proof. Never mind that they were probably running late or stressed about a meeting, your brain filters everything through that belief and starts cherry-picking evidence to support it. That's confirmation bias, your brain's way of protecting its existing beliefs, even if those beliefs are hurting you. Or how about the halo effect? That's when someone is super attractive or really charismatic, and suddenly you assume they're also smart, trustworthy, competent, basically a unicorn. But charisma doesn't equal credibility. We just want it to, because it feels easier than doing the hard work of actually evaluating someone's character or ideas. One time, I got into this heated debate in a group chat about a political topic, and someone dropped a long, well-worded comment with stats and links and big words. Everyone was like, damn, they're so smart. But you know what? Half of what they wrote was cherry-picked nonsense, taken out of context from some sketchy source. Still, it sounded smart. And that's what fooled everyone, including me for a minute. Critical thinking is about catching those moments. It's about realizing that just because someone speaks with confidence doesn't mean they speak with truth. And just because something feels right doesn't mean it is right. Want to see how these biases live in your day-to-day? Look at your feed. Your algorithm shows you what you already agree with. Your brain says, see, everyone thinks this way. And boom, you're stuck in a bubble without even knowing you're in one. If we never challenge our thoughts, they become assumptions. And if we never challenge our assumptions, they become our prison. But here's the good news. Once you see these biases, you can start to break their grip. It takes practice, humility, and sometimes a little mental discomfort. But that discomfort, that's the feeling of growth. Chapter 3. Why you're probably wrong. Let's get real for a second. Nobody likes being wrong. It stings, it's awkward, and for a lot of us, it feels like failure. But what if I told you that being wrong is actually the start of critical thinking, not the end of it? See, there's this lie we're fed from a young age, that being right equals being smart. So we cling to our opinions like they're identity badges, and when someone challenges us, we don't listen to understand, we listen to respond, to defend, to win. But here's the truth bomb. The smartest people you know, they change their minds often. Because being smart isn't about being certain, it's about being curious. Take a guy like Neil deGrasse Tyson. Dude's a literal astrophysicist, but even he constantly says, I don't know. And not because he's unsure of himself, but because the universe is complex, and he's humble enough to admit he doesn't have all the answers. That's real intelligence. That's critical thinking in action. I had a roommate once, super passionate about health and fitness. He swore by this one specific diet and pushed it like gospel. He wasn't a jerk about it, just sure. Then one day, his blood work came back weird. Turns out, the diet that worked for others was actually wrecking his system. That experience shook him, but it also woke him up. He started reading deeper, talking to real experts, asking tougher questions. And he realized that one-size-fits-all thinking was not only wrong, it was dangerous. That moment of being wrong, it made him wiser. So let me ask you something. When was the last time you changed your mind about something important? Not just a favorite food or TV show, but something that hit your values, your identity, your worldview. If it's been a while, that's not a red flag, it's a wake-up call. Being wrong doesn't mean you're weak. It means you're awake. It means you're willing to update your mental software, to patch the bugs, to evolve. And honestly, this shift changes everything. Conversations stop being battles and start becoming bridges. You stop arguing to win and start listening to learn. You're no longer scared of uncertainty because you know how to navigate it. That's freedom. Chapter 4. Thinking slow in a world that moves fast. Let me ask you something personal. How often do you react without really thinking? Someone cuts you off in traffic, rage. Your partner says something snarky, snap back. A friend disagrees with your opinion, instant shutdown. Sound familiar? You're not broken. You're just in System 1 mode. Psychologists Daniel Kahneman and Amos Tversky introduced the idea that our brain runs on two systems. System 1 is fast, emotional, automatic. It's the voice in your head that screams, "Run!" when you hear a loud noise. It's useful, but impulsive. Then there's System 2, slower, more analytical. It's the part that double-checks the math or rereads the contract. But here's the problem. We spend most of our lives stuck in System 1. Social media loves this. Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, everything is designed for speed, outrage, dopamine. You scroll, you react, you judge, you move on. And in that rush, we stop thinking. We stop questioning. We start echoing. Critical thinking, at its core, is about choosing System 2. It's about slowing down. It's about letting a question marinate before jumping to a conclusion. It's reading beyond the headline. It's asking yourself, what's the source? Or, who benefits if I believe this? There was this viral video I saw not long ago. Looked like a celebrity throwing shade at someone during an award speech. It blew up. Everyone had an opinion, but the full video told a completely different story. Context flipped everything. And yet, people had already made up their minds. And that's the danger of fast thinking in a hyperspeed world. It makes us shallow, reactionary, divided. But when we pause, when we give space to process, to reflect, to research, that's where truth lives. That's where nuance lives. And listen, I'm not saying every moment needs to be a full-on philosophical debate. Sometimes fast decisions are necessary, like ordering tacos or not walking into traffic. But for the big stuff, your relationships, your beliefs, your future, those deserve a little more System 2. So here's your move. Build in pause time before you argue, before you post, before you make a big decision. It can be 5 seconds. A breath, a question, a simple, what's really happening here? That space, that pause, that's where you'll find power most people never tap into. Chapter 5. Emotions aren't enemies, they're clues. Let's get something straight. Critical thinking is not about being cold, robotic, or emotionless. That's a myth. In fact, if you ignore your emotions completely, you're probably missing half the picture. The real challenge isn't to shut down your feelings, it's to understand them. Ever walked into a room and instantly felt annoyed by someone without knowing why? Or maybe you read a comment online and your blood just started boiling before you even finished it. That's emotion talking. And while emotion can cloud our thinking, it can also highlight what matters to us. If you pay attention, your emotional reactions are like glowing neon signs saying, "Hey, this is important." Let me give you a real example. I once had a conversation with a close friend who said something that made me super defensive. It wasn't even mean, it was just honest. But I felt attacked. I was ready to clap back, shut it down, walk away. But instead of reacting, I paused and asked myself, why is this hitting me so hard? And you know what? It wasn't about them. It was about me. What they said poked at an insecurity I hadn't dealt with. That one moment taught me more about my triggers than any self-help book ever could. Emotions, if we let them, can guide us to deeper understanding. But if we let them take the wheel, they'll drive us straight off a cliff. Critical thinking means feeling your feelings, but not being run by them. It's like having a GPS that says, here's where you are, but you still get to decide the route. And look, this doesn't mean becoming some master of Zen overnight. You're going to have moments where you react first and reflect later. That's being human. But the goal here is simple. Catch yourself sooner. Ask better questions about what you're feeling and why, because when you understand your emotions, you understand your motivations. And when you understand your motivations, your decisions stop being impulsive and start being intentional. Chapter 6. Ask questions that make people stop and think. Here's a wild truth. The smartest person in the room isn't the one with all the answers. It's the one who asks the best questions. Think about that for a second. Great questions are powerful. They interrupt automatic thinking. They force people, including yourself, to go deeper. But most of us were never really taught how to ask good ones. We ask questions to confirm, to lead, or to prove a point, but not to understand. Take a simple conversation. You could ask, "Don't you think this is the best way?" Or you could ask, "What's something I might be missing here?" The first one pushes an agenda. The second opens up space for clarity. A friend of mine is a therapist, and she told me that most breakthroughs don't come from giving advice. They come from asking the right question at the right moment. Like, what does success actually look like for you? Or whose voice are you hearing in your head when you doubt yourself? Those kinds of questions, they make people pause, reflect, and sometimes even break down walls they didn't know they'd built. In your own life, think about the last argument or misunderstanding you had. What if, instead of defending your side, you had asked, "What made you feel that way?" Or, "Can you help me see it from your perspective?" That's not weakness, that's power, the kind that builds connection and reveals truth. And this applies outside of personal stuff, too. When you read the news, scroll through social media, or listen to podcasts, ask yourself, who benefits from me believing this? What's the evidence? What might the other side say if they had the mic? These questions don't just sharpen your mind, they protect you. They keep you from being manipulated, misled, or caught in echo chambers. And in today's world, where everyone's yelling over each other, being someone who asks calm, smart, intentional questions, that's rare, that's magnetic. So here's a challenge. For the next week, don't just seek answers. Seek better questions. That shift alone could change how you think, how you listen, and how deeply you understand the world. Chapter 7. Spot the spin before it spins you. Let's talk about manipulation. Not the movie-style kind where villains twist mustaches in secret lairs. I mean the subtle, everyday kind. The ad that makes you feel insecure so you'll buy something. The influencer who wraps personal opinion in fake authority. The friend who always makes you feel guilty for saying no. Manipulation is everywhere, and most of it doesn't scream. It whispers. So how do you spot it? You get curious about the intention behind the message. Every sentence you hear, every image you see, every piece of content you consume. It was made by someone for a reason. The question is, what do they want you to think, feel, or do? Let's take advertising. You see a commercial that shows a guy buying a certain cologne, and suddenly he's the most desirable man alive. It's not just selling a scent, it's selling status, identity, belonging. And unless you pause and go, wait, is this really going to make me more attractive, or is it just trying to trigger an insecurity? You're already being played. Same with politics. Watch how language gets twisted. People don't say tax hike, they say economic freedom reduction. It's all branding. If you can frame a conversation, you can control it. And if you don't catch the spin, it'll catch you. This doesn't mean becoming paranoid or cynical. It just means staying awake. When someone tells you something confidently, ask, what's their angle? When a post goes viral, ask, why is this being shared now? Who gains from this narrative? That 1 second of pause, that's your shield. I remember getting caught up in a viral headline a while back. It triggered me instantly. I was about to share it, fired up and ready to go. But something felt off. So I clicked into the full article. Turns out the headline was wildly misleading. The actual story was way more nuanced. And I realized I almost helped spread a lie just because it felt true. That's how fast it can happen. That's how easy it is to lose control of your thinking when you don't stop and check the source. So if you want to think clearly, you've got to learn how to filter out the noise. That means understanding persuasion, recognizing emotional bait, and refusing to blindly trust just because something sounds good. You can be open-minded without being mindless. You can be compassionate without being naive. Being able to spot manipulation in real time is one of the strongest skills you can develop. It keeps your energy yours, your choices yours. And in a world full of people trying to sell you something, whether it's an idea, an identity, or a product. That's a level of freedom most people don't even know they're missing. Chapter 8. Break the thought loops that keep you stuck. Here's a truth that's both uncomfortable and kind of freeing. Most of us don't think. We rethink. We replay the same loops in our heads like a scratched-up Spotify track. Same assumptions, same fears, same knee-jerk reactions to anything that feels unfamiliar or uncomfortable. And the wild part, we do it without even realizing. Maybe you've caught yourself thinking things like, I always mess up under pressure, or no one ever really listens to me, or that's just how the world is. These aren't facts, they're belief loops. And once a belief loop gets baked into your mind, it starts shaping how you see reality. That's why two people can look at the same situation, like losing a job or getting criticized, and have totally different reactions. One thinks, this is proof I'm not good enough. The other thinks, okay, what can I learn from this? It's not about the event, it's about the frame you view it through. To improve your critical thinking, you have to catch those loops. You have to slow your mind down long enough to ask, is this thought helping me or trapping me? Is this actually true or just familiar? One technique I swear by is journaling. Not the Dear Diary stuff, but real-time decoding of your thoughts. When you're stuck or spiraling, write down the thought exactly as it appears. Then write, is this always true? Or what would I say to a friend thinking this? It sounds basic, but it's like pulling weeds out of your brain. The more you challenge the loop, the weaker it gets. Breaking mental loops doesn't happen in one heroic moment. It happens in quiet, repetitive acts of awareness. And every time you catch yourself, every time you pause instead of react, you build a brain that thinks in fresh patterns instead of recycled ones. Chapter 9. Make smarter decisions. So let's get really practical. How do you take all this mindset work and apply it when life gets messy? Because let's be honest, when we're tired, stressed, or emotionally charged, even smart people make dumb decisions. Critical thinking isn't just for debates or podcasts. It's for real life. When your friend texts something weird, your boss gives vague feedback, or you have to decide between staying in a toxic situation or walking away. In these moments, your ability to pause and think is gold. Here's a simple shift that works like magic. Move from automatic to active thinking. When a decision hits, instead of asking, what do I feel like doing? Ask, what would the future me want me to do right now? It's such a game changer. Because look, the present version of you, they want comfort, ice cream, the easy way out. But future you, they want growth, clarity, integrity. That split-second decision to think beyond the moment, that's where critical thinking lives. I'll give you an example. A friend of mine was deciding whether to confront a coworker who kept throwing her under the bus in meetings. She didn't want drama, but she also didn't want to keep quiet. So she paused and asked, what would I respect myself for doing a week from now? That one question helped her choose clarity over comfort, and it changed everything. Your daily decisions stack up. Every small choice either sharpens your thinking or dulls it. So next time you're choosing between scrolling or reading, reacting or reflecting, escaping or engaging, pause. Play it forward. Choose from the part of you that's clear, not the part that's just trying to cope. Chapter 10. You don't need to be right, you need to be real. So here's where we land. The real power of critical thinking isn't just about winning arguments or dodging manipulation. It's about something deeper, being real with yourself. We live in a world that worships confidence, hot takes, and instant reactions. But what if being wise meant saying, I don't know yet? What if the strongest voice in the room wasn't the loudest, but the one asking, am I seeing this clearly or just comfortably? Critical thinking isn't about being perfect. It's about being present, curious, open, willing to update your beliefs when you learn something new. That takes humility and courage and practice. A lot of it. And here's the most beautiful part. You don't have to figure it all out at once. Every conversation where you listen more than you talk, every moment where you pause before reacting, every time you ask, what's the bigger picture here? That's you becoming a clearer thinker. So the next time you feel overwhelmed, manipulated, or just mentally foggy, take a breath, ask a better question, zoom out, and remember, you're not here to impress the world with how right you are. You're here to understand it more deeply, to grow, to think clearly, so you can live fully. You've got this. and you're already doing it. If this resonated with you, keep the momentum going. Check out our next video on emotional mastery, how to stop getting triggered and stay calm under pressure. Because thinking clearly is powerful, but feeling clearly, that's next level. Chapter 11, Think Better, Connect Deeper. Let's get honest for a second. What's the point of thinking clearly if it doesn't help you connect more deeply with the people you love, work with, or even disagree with? We often think of critical thinking as this solo mission, something we do in the quiet of our minds or during late-night overthinking marathons. But in real life, thinking better should lead to living better. And that means navigating messy conversations, misunderstandings, and emotional minefields with more grace and less ego. Have you ever misread someone's tone over text and spun a whole narrative in your head? Or assumed your partner should just know why you're upset, and when they didn't, you went cold? Been there. We all have. And every time that happens, our brain takes shortcuts based on old beliefs or fears and calls it logic. But that's not logic. That's protection. Critical thinking in relationships means slowing down those reflexes and asking, what else could be true here? What might I be missing? This doesn't mean overanalyzing every word someone says. It means being curious instead of reactive. One of the most powerful things you can say in a heated moment is, help me understand where you're coming from. It disarms the other person. It tells them you care more about truth than being right. In tough conversations, it's easy to slip into me versus you thinking. But when you bring real critical thought into the room, it becomes us versus the misunderstanding. You're working with them, not against them. And honestly, that changes everything. I once watched two friends almost wreck their friendship over a text message that sounded cold. They both assumed the worst. But when they actually talked, like voice to voice, they realized it wasn't disrespect, just stress and poor timing. One simple conversation, layered with thoughtful questions and space to be heard, saved years of trust. When you think better, you love better. You listen like it matters. You ask without attacking, and you build relationships that are rooted in understanding, not assumptions. Thinking deeply isn't just about ideas. It's about people. And when you show up with clarity, curiosity, and a little humility, you don't just look smarter, you live wiser. Chapter 12. Become the editor of your own mind. Let's wrap with this. You are not your thoughts. You are the editor of them. Your brain will throw all kinds of stuff at you. Insecurities, random opinions, emotional knee-jerks, old fears pretending to be facts. That's just what brains do. But here's the thing. They're suggestions, not commandments. And just like a good editor, your job is to decide, does this serve the story I want to live, or is this just noise? That question alone can change your life. Most people let their minds run the show. Their inner dialogue runs on autopilot, driven by fear, judgment, or outdated beliefs. But once you realize you can pause, zoom out, and challenge the script, you take your power back. And it doesn't mean suppressing your feelings or denying your experiences. It means filtering what gets to shape your reality. Next time your mind says, you're not good enough, you ask, where did that come from? Is it based on evidence or just habit? When you catch yourself judging someone instantly, you ask, what's the full story I'm not seeing here? When you're stuck in indecision, you ask, what would I do if I wasn't afraid? That's editing. You can rewrite your mindset. You can sharpen your worldview. You can build a brain that doesn't just react, but reflects. And no, it's not a switch you flip. It's more like brushing your teeth. You do it every day, even when you're tired, because it keeps your mind clean. You show up again and again, choosing clarity over chaos. Over time, that adds up to a version of you that's not just smarter, but stronger, freer, and more fully alive. So the next time you feel overwhelmed or lost in thought, remember, you're not stuck with every idea that pops into your head. You have the pen, you have the scissors. You get to shape what stays. You don't have to think harder. You just have to think clearer. And that kind of clarity, it makes you unstoppable. If this journey helped shift something in you, if you caught even one thought loop you're ready to let go of, then don't stop now. The next video we've got will take you even further, mastering self-awareness, the hidden skill behind all growth. Click over, keep thinking deeply, keep living intentionally, because this isn't just about being smart. It's about becoming someone you deeply respect. Chapter 13, the choice that changes everything. There's a moment in everyone's life, a quiet, almost invisible moment, where you realize you don't have to keep thinking the way you always have, that you can pause, breathe, and choose a different thought. That's the real breakthrough. It's not about mastering some advanced logic puzzle or quoting philosophers. It's about reclaiming your power to choose what stays in your mind and what doesn't. You've probably been there before, even if you didn't notice. Maybe it was the day you finally said, "Why do I always assume people are out to get me?" Or the moment you heard a cruel voice in your head and thought, "Wait, who taught me to talk to myself like that?" That flicker of awareness, that's where everything shifts. Because when you get to that level of thinking, you stop being a prisoner of your own mind. You stop reacting out of fear, trauma, or habit. And you start creating from a place of freedom. It's not easy. Old mental patterns don't go down without a fight. They whisper in familiar voices. They show up dressed as truth. But critical thinking gives you the flashlight. It helps you ask, is this real? Is this useful? Is this mine? Or just something I absorbed? And with every answer, you edit the script. You reclaim your mental real estate. You may never have full control of what thoughts show up, but you always have a choice in what you do with them. That choice, that's the muscle, that's the skill, that's critical thinking. It's the skill that quietly guides every good decision you'll ever make, every relationship you'll ever repair, every belief you'll ever outgrow. And in a world that's louder, faster, and more distracting than ever, your ability to stop, zoom out, and think clearly is a radical act of strength. Conclusion. So here's the truth. Critical thinking isn't just a brain skill, it's a life skill. It's what helps you spot manipulation, break old patterns, ask better questions, and build better connections. It's the difference between blindly reacting and consciously choosing. It's not about being a know-it-all. It's about being the kind of person who knows themselves deeply enough to stay grounded, even when the world's a mess. If this resonated with you, if even one moment in this video made you go, "Damn, I needed to hear that," then you're already halfway there. Growth begins the moment you question what you've always accepted. So here's your challenge. Next time you feel triggered, confused, or unsure, pause, breathe, ask better questions, invite discomfort, stay curious. Don't reach for easy answers. Reach for honest ones. You don't have to be perfect, just intentional. And if you're ready to keep building that mindset, we've got something next that takes this to a whole new level. How to build unshakable self-awareness. It's raw, deep, and it'll change the way you see yourself forever. Hit that next video. Stay with us. Because thinking clearly isn't just about changing your mind. It's about changing your life. And you're just getting started.